Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. It's time now to review headlines of today's newspapers. We're going to, of course, begin with the newspaper of record.
This day on Saturday it is.
Absolutely.
And of course, we'll start with that. Let's take it from top to bottom. The window story here says, PDP to members, those endorsing Tinubu for 2027 face sanctions. And the two riders show, of course, the level of politicking that we have gotten to so early on our way to the 2027 electioneering year. Again, Bala Mohammed appeals to Peter Obi to return to PDP. Former LP presidential candidate donates 15 million naira to College of Nursing Islamic School in Bauchi. I think that this is an interesting development. Two stories there. Of course, as you know, it's all about PDP, but of course we know that Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of Labour Party in 2023, is an integral part of this interesting discussion. We discussed in Little during the week that was what the PDP is saying to its members, particularly in Ogun State, that if you endorse President Tinubu for 2027, you will face sanctions. It's interesting how they are making it, generalizing it, because as far as I know, Minister Wike is still a member of the PDP, and he has consistently endorsed and is working for an APC government. So when PDP, in that their low dramatic tone, say that you will face sanctions, why don't you start with the biggest voice in the room, Nyesom Wike, who says unapologetically that it is Tinubu or nobody. And
I think it just speaks to, I wouldn't want to use the word hypocrisy, but it's, we say things and we don't mean what we say. We say things and we do not mean what we say. We say one thing, but we mean something else. Because like you rightly said, those endorsing Tinubu for 2027 to face sanctions. What sanctions? How long have they been endorsing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? How much more endorsement do we need to see to actually see any action take place? And it's just one person. Just one person.
Who has PDP, sanctioned?
That's what I'm saying. They can just sanction.
The former governor of Ekiti went with his PDP cap to endorse the candidates of the APC for the governorship, Governor Oyebanji, who is returning as the governor of Ekiti State, and declared there, right on the stage, with his PDP cap, that he will also support and endorse Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as president in 2027. So what is PDP talking about? Who is PDP talking to?
Another important question is, who is the PDP that is talking? Who in the PDP? That's
Which
PDP is talking? Because if PDP is saying to members, PDP is not a person's name. I don't know any individual whose name is the People's Democratic Party. Because if we're seeing everybody, and who we have seen happens to be a major brain box and a major thought leader within the PDP, Nyesom Wike, as part of the members that they're talking about, then who exactly is this PDP that is talking to members that those endorsing Tinubu will face sanctions? Of course, we know the National Working Committee of the PDP are the ones who made this statement, but how much power do they carry at this point in time?
They can speak for the party.
They can speak for the party, but how much weight does what they say carry?
Exactly.
What influence does it carry?
Amount to? And I've mentioned two names here. Of course, you can add the name, the governor of Osun State to it, Adeleke, who went, with his brother.
No, Adeleke just wants to leave people. Let's just leave him alone. He has said he's not. Let's just leave him out of this, because I feel like he has been one of the most. He's not calling anybody's name. He's not calling anybody out. He has said he's not moving anywhere. They should just leave him and his Osun State, please, at this point in time. But I also think that the story below that, the sub-headline below that story, again, Bala Mohammed appeals to Peter Obi to return to PDP, is another very important conversation. What is this appeal about? I mean, is there...
PDP is shopping for a candidate, obviously. Bala Mohammed will not be the first to make that call. He's saying it for the second time. Professor Jerry Ghana, former Minister
did say that
of Information, also said that, the person that we need is Obi, and I maintain my point. Of course, you can woo Obi back to PDP, but then all you will have succeeded in doing is to repeat what happened in 2023 and have a 3-horse race.
Yes, which is a good thing, isn't it?
Well, a 3 horses gives
Oh,
the
you
sitting
mean
president...
between the ADC, APC, and PDP? So no more Labour Party?
There will be Labour Party.
But
There will be more than 17 parties that will contest.
Yes,
NMPP
yes.
is still there
Yes.
with the Kwakwansia movement and
Yes, that's true.
But I'm just saying that in terms of those who carry weight, the majority of the votes, it will be those 3 parties. Labour will, if Obi leaves Labour sinks back to the 5,000, 30,000 votes that they used to get nationally. So if it is ADC, because it's almost certain that Atiku will run.
Do you think that they stand, because as it is right now, not to foretell, but it is definitely tilting towards another situation where there could be a possibility of unseating, but because of the fact that the votes will be split on sitting the incumbent, that is, but obviously, hold on, we're getting there. I said there could be, but if one of these 2 champions decides to say, you know what, you run for president and I'll be your vice. Could there be a possibility if that happens? So in that case, there would not be a 3-horse race. There will be a 2. The 2, that will be Atiku and Peter Obi, will run under one party. So Obi comes in with his obedient movement, which is still a right.
As a VP?
That's why I said it could be either or. He can decide, or Atiku can decide to run as a VP. It becomes a situation where one person literally says, I'm willing to step down for us. Because it's a greater good.
Being VP how many years ago? Almost 20 years ago.
You cannot speak for him. You never know.
As the PDP.
No, you never know. Maybe he might decide to say, the greater good of Nigeria is greater than my personal interests.
Ne dis jamais, jamais, the French will say. Never say never. But I won't say that it will never happen. But of course, Atiku will not run with Obi as VP. If Obi runs with Atiku as a running mate, then that's a return of what happened in 2019.
Yes.
And Buhari defeated them in 2019.
But the obedient movement was not as strong at the time. So we can't say that would be the case. I'm just giving the historical context. Yes, I get that. We don't know what will happen, but then it depends on which platform they run. If it is ADC, PDP will find another big name to use, and it will still be I don't think it will be that much of a big horse.
But that's fine. Let's see what happens. Other stories, there are other interesting stories on the cover of today's This Day. Kwam apologizes over unruly behavior at Abuja Airport. That's on the strip there. We already had an extensive discussion on that unfortunate incident. Kwam has now swallowed his pride and has apologized. But of course, we know, as I said in my own opinion, there were 3 culprits there. Kwam himself, the captain with his co-pilot who dropped the ball by getting angry and behaving in a manner that is not consistent with the procedures of flying an aircraft. And of course, the authorities themselves, which Minister Festus Keyamo is yet to speak to, they also dropped the ball badly. And in looking holistically at the investigation that will come up, I hope that they will not absolve the officers, the ground officers, FAN, NCAA, and all the security who ought to have nipped that in the bud. Once you deboard a passenger, you ensure that he's nowhere around where it can cause, on the tarmac, where it can cause any type of problem. But we are getting there. At least there's an apology. Let's see what happens, and we hope that it won't be an audio investigation like the investigation that was promised about the Adams Oshiomhole, who also allegedly behaved badly on that day when he was denied boarding.
I completely agree. I think just like the legal maxim, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. With clean hands.
Absolutely.
There's different parties that are involved in this situation. I, for one, was, completely just appalled by the entire situation, because this happens a lot. We see celebrities, we see political leaders, people of influence believe that they should be treated differently, and if we're being honest, oftentimes do get treated differently.
Privileges are allowed.
Privileges are allowed. Sometimes they
don't jeopardize.
But it shouldn't now come at the expense of other people's peace of mind, at the expense of other people's desire to, somebody on that flight can actually sue. one of the passengers, if they decide to, they can decide to sue ValueJet for the inconvenience, for the negligence that took place, for the duty of care that they owed them as passengers who have paid for the flight. So there's so many issues that could come out of this, but I think what will be most pacifying will be to see how this situation plays out, because it's just unacceptable. Completely.
Absolutely. Other stories, WAEC releases corrected results with 62.96% in English and maths. We're still waiting to get connection from our team on ground with Comrade Hassan Akitoye, who's the president, I believe, of the NUT in Lagos State, who is meant to share his thoughts with us on this dramatic turn of event from WAEC, from barely 30% with nobody scoring any appreciable marks in English and maths, and then all of a sudden to saying that, we've reviewed what happened, the technical glitches, and then it frog jumps to 62.96%, almost like what happened earlier in the year when JAM also had a similar issue.
I read a very controversial think piece on this subject with regards to the fact that this situation, we need to look at it also from the perspective that a lot of students will not be getting into university at the right time with the continuous issues that we see. They will not be able to progress in their educational journey. And if they're not progressing in their educational journey, they're not applying for jobs. If they're not applying for jobs, then there will still be a gap in unemployment. So you see kids that are just rotating. I mean, the ones who can afford to leave and take other sources. Maybe they want to write other exams, international exams that will allow them apply to other institutions outside of Nigeria, can do that. But the majority who are dependent on the WAEC system, on the post-UTME system, on the JAM system to gain admissions into schools, have now been hit with such a terrible roadblock, because chances are they will have to probably retake this exam at the end of the day. Hopefully that will not be the case. What WAEC is saying is
that they have corrected, the anomaly, and that the results now show that more than 60% of those who took the exams got credit in English and maths, and that the pass mark is now more like they were hoping for. So I'm not sure that many people, like the 2 million who took the exams, will be affected. But I get the point that you're trying to make, and I've made that point previously on this program, that our institutions are overwhelmed. The universities are overwhelmed. The NYSC is overwhelmed. People graduated late last year, and many of them are just going for service this month. Many are yet to go on service, which means that many people who graduated from universities will have spent 1 year at home before going for the 1 year mandatory NYSC, service. The same thing is happening even in universities. Not to talk of public, universities, even private universities. They are overwhelmed in terms of providing accommodation for students who have their money to pay, but then you have many intake, more than you can handle. Deal with. So everybody is overwhelmed, and it's a big major problem, all around.
And it's interesting to say this because every other day a new university is popping up somewhere.
Hopefully to bridge the gap, but then,
But the disparity in cost is incomparable. I mean, federal universities are the ones who we're referring to when we talk about being overwhelmed educationally. It's not the private institutions. If anything, private schools are looking for students at this point in time. But I think it's the federal universities that are overwhelmed.
If you're looking for students and you're not able to accommodate them, that's a big problem. If your lecture rooms and lecture theaters are not able to accommodate the number of students that you're trying to take, then that's a problem. I get the point that you're looking for more money, but then when they pay you money, you owe them the duty of care to provide accommodation that they are ready to pay for. I'm saying that big name institutions in Lagos of today
private institutions.
Private institutions, big name private institutions
do not have the capacity.
The capacity to accommodate their students.
With this kind of school fees that they charge, that is quite shocking.
It's shocking. Last but not the least, the lead story on the cover of this day today, Rewane, Populace getting uncomfortable with unintended reforms consequences. And the writer says reform fatigue undermining Nigeria's economic performance. Declares rebased GDP numbers of $243 billion not flattering. Nigeria's external reserves now 39.99 billion naira. That's that's just basically looking at the situation with the Nigerian economy. And it's coming from no less than the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, who, of course, is a strong voice when it comes to correctly analyzing the problem with our economy and finances of Nigeria. And it says that the populace is getting very uncomfortable with unintended reforms consequences. And I believe that if you throw a dice, it will almost come back as, double six, because this is the position of many people, sadly, at this point in time.
Sadly.
And I'm not saying that many of those didn't see the need for some of these reforms, but they are saying that, yes, we are almost 2.5 years into the reform, but our lives are worse off. We are struggling a lot more than we used to. So what is the benefit of reform that does not pay me? For how long do we have to wait to reap the benefits when we know that those who are behind these same reforms are living large, are doing well, are enjoying, the good things of life, but then the citizens are, are asked to tighten their belts and hope for a better future.
Hope and persevere. Persevere. But, I think the Saturday Punch puts it in such an interesting way by beginning the headlines with boldly written in red, hardship. Just hardship. What does hardship mean? It tilts to the situation going on within the customs right now. Nigerian used car market booms as more owners sell off private vehicles. Cameroonian Beninese dealers rush for Nigerian used cars. Dealers blame customs duty for Tokumbo imports decline. So basically, whereas at some point in time a Nigerian used car is seemingly not as
we're on the Punch so that they can pull up.
Yes, we are on the Punch newspaper.
Yeah, Punch, Saturday Punch. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Go
yes.
on. We don't have Punch.
Okay, yes, we do not have that.
Yeah.
So yes, whereas most people would tilt for the visual Belgium cars, as they call them, but now that's not the case. A lot of people are now going for Nigerian used, and a lot of individuals who have good Nigerian used cars are now going into the market. That also shows a further decline, in Tokumbo imports, and not just import, but also the cost of clearing these goods as well. It's completely outrageous for a lot of market users, to be honest, and there's lots of customers as well who continually complain about the cost of buying these cars. They continue to increase, but at what value? A lot of Nigerians also tilting towards importing by themselves because it's cheaper to buy and might also be cheaper to clear if you consider the entire cost at the end of the day compared to buying in a lot in Nigeria.
I don't know if you saw the joke on social media the other time about certain types of young ladies who say that they will not date a guy driving a Corolla. And people are like, what has Corolla
I didn't see that joke.
What has Corolla done to you? And I'm like, it took about Corolla before 2023 was around 1.5, 2 million. Today is about 7.5,
which is ridiculous.
9 million.
So
my point is, how much will the Corolla guy who's been told that you do not deserve to date a certain type of girl, how much will he need to earn? How much will his salary need to be before he can buy a new, not even new, a Tokumbo Belgium thing that you mentioned, it at between 7 to 9 million. So that underscores the things that we are talking about, and we're saying that who does not deserve to ride a Corolla? If you're a young journalist, for example, can you not? If you're a teacher, can you not? If you are a nurse or a young doctor, that's the level that you start.
Corolla, matrices, that's fine.
For those who are able to afford it, I'm saying that last year alone, we know how much a ticket cost. And we're talking about last year that we said that, we have cleared the $7 billion that was owed airlines, etc. But fast forward to this year, this summer, we know what has climbed on top of it. So if we say that our economy is stabilizing at this point, it is not in tandem with what Nigerians are feeling. And I think that this is the point that Mr. Bismarck Rewane, was saying, the other time. And of course, which Punch is also now using the Nigerian used car market to underscore, using hardship. using hardship as the as the kicker.
As the key, exactly, as the key point in this. I think what's also more frustrating is that the price that these cars are often sold for at this time is not even the real value. But we will keep up with the conversation with regards to the top headlines today across Nigerian newspapers. But we will take a short break at this time. And when we return, we'll continue with the conversation. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. And just before we went on that very short break, we were taking a look at top stories in today's newspapers. And we were just taking a look at the Saturday Punch. I think just to round things off on the Saturday Punch, we can talk about another very, very troubling situation. Today, the Punch, taglines are quite catchy. Reign of terror. Southeast gangs recruit Igbo youths online, flaunt crimes with impunity. I think the situation in the Southeast is something that needs to continually be spoken about. I think one thing I'm still struggling to understand is, it's equally a dire situation in the Southeast with these gangs, right? But they're not seen as similar to the situation in the North because it is not as bad. Yeah. But not to say the crimes are still not happening in the Southeast as well. These crimes are happening, these levels of impunity on a whole other level, with the jazz angle to it. Governor Soludo actively coming out to say this needs to stop. People are literally moving around with body parts in Okadas. It cannot continue to happen like this. So these gangs are recruiting Igbo youths online, flaunting crimes with impunity. Just earlier this week, we were having a conversation with a former military leader about the rehabilitation for Boko Haram terrorists. And he was basically defending why he thinks that's important. And my question now is, this youth that they are recruiting online, when they are arrested, do they also go through the same rehabilitation process? Is there a process where they are reintegrated into society, or is that only reserved for Boko Haram? Because what his explanation was that these bandits are recruited back into society because they are forcefully brought into the group, not because they want to be there. So it still remains a matter of contention as to how these issues around insecurity in different states for their peculiarities are handled. Insecurity doesn't have one face. Absolutely. It has several faces. Absolutely.
It's a contentious issue, and I just hope that we don't continue to play politics when it comes to recruiting, taking back known or repentant bandits or terrorists, into the society, not just into the society, but into security apparatus. I mean, that, there must be a method to this kind of madness. We will have to, show a lot of care. Let's move on to Saturday Tribune, and I would like to start with the cover picture because we missed discussing one of the cover pictures in this day newspaper, and that has to do with the picture, of course, celebrating and highlighting the life and time and the burial, of course, through the burial of the immediate past Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Olakuleyin. Akitoye Wolabi Olakuleyin, who passed on last month at the age of 90. In fact, immediately after his 90th birthday, just 1 year on the throne of his forefathers. And this picture here at the funeral service at the St. Peter's Cathedral in Ibadan is showing his son, the Prince Sumbo Olakuleyin, on the left, with the governor of Lagos State, or for your state, sorry, Mr. Seyi Makinde. We also have that picture on the cover of this day. And I think that this is an important development, celebrating the late Olubadan, who did quite well within the short time that he had for his people. The beauty about the Ibadan thing, two things are clearly evident here. One is that there is no controversy as to which religion did the Oba belong to. You were there as Olubadan, representing your culture, but you are also allowed to identify with any religion of your choice. And Oba Olakuleyin was a Christian, and so there are no qualms as to whether he can be buried in the Christian way not like other places where they might think, oh, if you have signed off to be on the throne, you must jettison every other religion and be a man of culture and tradition. That's not the way it is done in Ibadan. The other important part in Ibadan is that being Republican in nature, there is never a controversy as to who will be the next in line. And we already know, and the Olubadan Council has already sent the name of the next in line, the Olubadan designate, who is the current Otun Olubadan, former governor Rashidi Ladoja, who was the governor of Oyo State. He was a senator, a successful businessman, speaks brilliant French, and everybody is looking forward to a fantastic reign when Olubadan Rashidi Adewolu Ladoja is finally coronated, and I think they're just basically waiting for the concurrence of the governor. And what needed to be done is this funeral for the departed Olubadan, so that we can now begin to talk about the coronation of a former governor and a former senator as the traditional monarch. His Imperial Majesty, he will be called once he's coronated, Senator Adewolu Ladoja. What a beautiful day will it be in Ibadan, the political capital of the southwest of Nigeria. A few other stories, of course, on the cover of Saturday Tribune. Daylight bloody attack in Kwara screams the lead headline of today's Tribune. And the riders, bandits abduct, kill residents. Police, state government talk tough. So you see that as we were discussing about Zamfara with our guest, and we were mentioning Borno, mentioning Plateau, Benue, Sokoto. Here is Tribune, which is an important paper in the southwest of Nigeria, saying that daylight bloody attack in Kwara, bandits abduct, kill residents, police, state governor talk tough. So we can't really say enough, when it comes to this matter of insecurity.
It's like I would always say, it's important to understand that we cannot also stop talking about it because we cannot normalize this. The day we stop talking about it, the day we stop highlighting the situation, and I know that I want to always get frustrated at the idea of just constantly talking about it. I get incredibly frustrated by it, but I also understand the importance of just talking about it, because the day we stop talking about it is the day we begin to normalize it. And as journalists, that's really the major role that we can play. Yeah. The day we stop talking about it is the day we begin to normalize it. I mean, this is just incredibly... This is scary to look at. The fact that these are actual people.
Absolutely.
These people, you never know what the destinies they carry could be. Maybe one of these people who died could be the president someday. You never know.
People will turn around the fortunes of the country.
Turn around the fortunes of the company, and their lives are just wasted. Every other day we see similar headlines. And what is it that is the police and the state government are talking tough about? What are you saying? What else needs to be said?
And also, what are they saying about the spate of kidnappings and, in other parts of if you look at the strip, still on the cover of Saturday Tribune, the last strip there, abductors of Ondo Varsity worker demand 7 million naira ransom. People are still making a kill out of this illegal enterprise of abductions and kidnappings. What are we doing? Does it have to do with the connivance of security agencies? And I'm hammering on this because I read the crime is crime when it comes to extortion. Whether you are doing that through abductions and kidnappings, or you're doing that trying to hawk appointments, in government. I read the beautiful, very illuminating press statement by the media advisor to the secretary to the government of the Federation, SGF, that's Yomi Odunuga, because we're now hearing of cases of hawkers of appointment who are stealing and cloning voices of important people in Abuja, particularly the secretary to the government of the Federation, and are calling politically exposed people, all over the country to say that, oh, you have been penciled down for an appointment, blah, blah, and they will sound like the man. You will see the names of the person they are cloning on your phone. They will sound like the person, and then they would ask you, send your
That's
CV.
AI.
Absolutely.
That is AI.
Speak with the chairman of something committee on the Senate, and of course it will always come down to asking for money to process it. So my point is that when they now send account details to send to, and there are many of our people who have a way of teasing these scammers. They'll say, we can't transfer to fintech, company, send a proper whatever. They'll send, accounts of other banks. So my point is that why are security agencies, even when such cases are reported, why are security agencies unable to track and trace and apprehend, these scammers? The same way that they ought to track, trace, and apprehend those who are collecting money through ransom. Through ransom and kidnapping. If we allow this enterprise to fester, it becomes an industry.
To be honest, it is. And I also find that, not everybody gets the privilege of being reported in the news or in the dailies.
Absolutely. Many people don't have that privilege.
A lot of people don't have the privilege to be talked about in the news. The fact that the abductors of the University worker the case of the University worker is in the papers today. This is one of several. There are people who have been kidnapped.
Absolutely.
They've disappeared. No one is talking about them anymore. They've just vanished into thin air.
You're asking for 7 million from an university worker. A professor doesn't earn #1 million a month. If you earn #1 million a month for a professor with a family of 3, 4, or 5, that 1 million will finish in 1 week. And you're asking that 7 million be provided? So our security agencies need to do a lot more. Do we have that? Yeah, I know that you like the nation.
I do. I hate to say, but I absolutely love the nation. I think it's just beautifully organized, well structured, and the stories are very, very, just very catchy, to be honest. They sort of just accumulate everything of the story. And I think it's a great way to end this if we cannot take another paper after this. Okay. But of course, the lead story there speaks about the 2027 presidency. Wike, Adeleke, and others incur wrath of PDP pro-Jonathan big shots for endorsing Tinubu. South must retain presidency in 2027.
Do we have the Nation
Niger Delta
producers?
We do not have.
I think we should pull the Nation up.
They don't have it. They don't have it. They don't have it. So that's the lead story today on The Nation on Saturday. We already spoke about this. I think we have that coming up now. We already spoke about this extensively.
So did you get my point about the possibility of an Atiku Obi or Obi Atiku, as you said?
Yes.
And my point was that if that happens and they go with the ADC, who told you that PDP can go for former President Jonathan that people are talking about? And Wike is already getting uncomfortable with that possibility.
What is that uncomfortable feeling? Because I always say this. Whatever makes you uncomfortable, there's something about you that you don't like in that situation. So, in as much as what is that uncomfortable? Is it a threat? Maybe. Is it a possibility that maybe there are certain people in the corridors of power that allow what is happen right now, that are allowing the situation in PDP? They're just watching and just looking and allowing it. And if at all they decide to stop this, it could come to an end.
Wike's role to many analysts, and of course, if one applies a bit of common sense, it will be pretty obvious to be able to read. He's on an assignment, and I think that he's delivering that assignment.
He's delivering
if a situation presents himself that he's not able to control whoever will come out of PDP, then that will run contrary to the assignment that he has been given. We do not know who has
You just delivered a clear solution to PDP's problem. You do know that, right?
What was that clear solution?
What did you say?
What did you hear?
No, but you just said it. If at all he is unable to control who comes out of PDP,
yes,
it becomes a stumbling block to his alleged mandate, if at all there is a mandate, if at all. So maybe the PDP needs to look into what the Nation is saying in this headline. Maybe they do. But there are other interesting stories here. The federal government pays the second tranche of 35,000 naira wage award arrears to workers. 3 more tranches remaining. The president is also speaking to the importance of fact-checking. Responsible critic requires fact-driven narratives. I think there's always going to be the conversation around fact-checking, the conversation around opinion versus fact, and the importance to distinguish between the both of them when writing, when speaking, to say, this is my personal opinion about this. However, it's important to note that this is only an opinion and not a statement of fact. It's important to make that distinction. I think, what else do we have on The Nation?
I think we should also do the Vanguard, Saturday
Vanguard.
Vanguard,
I think we can get into the Vanguard.
Because of an important story that I believe that many Nigerians will appreciate. And it's just hidden. Well, I won't say hidden. It's on the...
Dangote?
On the strip, on the Dangote refinery. Dangote refinery debunks shutdown rumor, says PMS's gantry price remains 850 naira, of course, per liter. I think that's an important story, given that NNPC and the court have gone back to almost 1,000 naira, naira and 60 naira, and 50 naira, and 70 something.
Yes.
What is the reason? What is the point? Each time that they try to bring the price down to less than 900, it never stayed for more than a week or two or three. Or maybe when they're doing it, when there is a festivity like Salah, but then Dangote is saying, no, there's no shutdown anywhere. We're still selling at 850. So what is NNPC's reason and the marketer's reason for staying at almost, for going back to 1,000 naira? I think that is important, so that Dangote shouldn't just stop at saying, oh, we're still selling at 850. Emphasize where people can get at 850, so that it becomes a competition. Let people queue
to get it where they can get it
at a cheaper
which
rate.
is what
at the
Nigerians
time
would like.
That everybody is complaining about, sky prices of things being, going, skyrocketing. Fuel is at the heart of practically everything that we do.
It is. It's at the heart
everything
of
that we do.
It's at the heart of business transactions. It's at the heart of everything.
Honestly.
It's just like food.
A friend was telling me the other time that that there is fire on the mountain. And I said, where is he burning? Let's call the fire service. He said the amount that he spends fueling himself, that he just felt, sometimes you just go, along just buying when you finish using it. But then when you sit down to look at how much you have spent fueling yourself since January of this year, then you begin to rethink this whole reforms thing, because it's not going along with what you are making, with what an average person is making, which is also what IMF is saying the other time. I got the point that Tunji Dari, special advisor, is saying that look at the whole picture and don't be biased as journalists. But journalists are also human beings. We buy fuel, we do many things. We buy food. We also want to enjoy a bit. And we know how much it's costing people. And it is not funny. It really is not funny.
The entirety of reforms, especially as it pertains to energy, I'd always say, this is one sector that I would say is a continuous work in progress. It's a continuous work in progress. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was the Society of Petroleum Engineers hosting an event here in Lagos, Nigeria, and we saw some interesting information come off of that. Renaissance Energy meeting its contractual gas supply obligations to the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas, NLNG, and that's a result of about 40% increase in its crude oil output. This also ties into President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda to say we want to be able to reach a certain amount of barrels of oil per day by 2027, by 2030. Now, these are stories that let us know there is a lot going on within the energy sector, across private sector, in individuals as well, across the NNPCL. It's a work in progress. We will get there. And I think Nigerians can actually hold on to this one. They can hold it like this, like, okay, there's something happening here. Let's wait and see. They can actually hold on to it.
Absolutely.
But that's as much as we can take on the newspaper review.
Sadly,
today.
we were not able to bring Comrade Hassan Akitoye on. We had advertised that he will be here to speak about the issues affecting WAEC and the results.
I know.
But I'm sure that he will come up on subsequent programs on, here on Arise News. All right, that brings us to the end of the morning show today. Thank you for watching, and do stay safe. I'm Steve Ayorinde.
And it is such a great time that we have spent here on the morning show. I'm Kachi Ofia from our entire team here in Lagos, Nigeria. Enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day.